Oh, lovely to meet you finally.
Finally,
Oh,
I get to meet you. Hey,
yes, yes. Did you have a good day today?
had a good one. It was long, but look, I can't complain.
Yes, yes. The life of
Yeah,
an entrepreneur. It's not
yeah,
easy, but it's fantastic. What can we say?
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And yours?
It was a good day. I
Yeah.
worked a bit in the morning and I had a 2 hour, it was about a 2 hour training. And then I came back to prepare for the show because it's quite a bit of preparation that goes into it. And well, I had a good day overall.
Where are you based, Michelle? Are you in Cape Town?
Oh,
Is
I'm in the
it-
Western Cape, but living and working in George, the beautiful city of George. You must know it.
Wow. No, I know. I
Yes.
know George. So we often like to take the drive to Cape Town with the family, and George is just one of our stops that where we'd probably spend
Wow, then
like
we
two
must
nights.
connect. We must
Yeah.
connect.
So from Durban, we'd probably give ourselves almost a week to get to Western Cape,
That's the way to do it.
and
That's,
and yeah, and we just have fun on the way. Hey.
you know what? I love hearing stories like that because that is my passion to
Yeah.
share especially for us previously disadvantaged
Yes.
folk. We need to own the land, and the only way to own it
Absolutely.
is to know it. And I'm so proud as a South African. I know every town, city. I know the map of South Africa. I literally have seen the map, and not because I'm so good. It's because I married a town planner. So,
Oh
so,
wow.
so my husband Gavin is a town planner. So from the early days of our marriage, wherever he traveled in the country, he took me with. I even went to a place called Guyane. You know Guyane? I went to Guyane.
Yes.
I sat in a meeting with the elders and the chiefs and all the important people, and I got to know the people of our country intimately. Like
Wow.
it was a wonderful experience, and that's basically my life and my story. I was born and raised in Durban, of course, beautiful Durban, and
Yeah.
then we got a bit adventurous, and well, he took positions with national government, and then here he works for Western Cape government. I try to share as much as I can artistically. I want to put it out so everybody can dream about coming and experiencing it. And I think as South Africans, those of us who hadn't seen these parts before, because I think you couldn't really stop in these parts. You had to just keep driving back in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to live here is a sort of activism in a sense. So that's what I enjoy a lot about it. And also the beaches. The beaches are beautiful here. We have Herald's Bay, and these beaches have a history, right? So
Mm.
that I've made Herald's Bay my own is like a sort of activism as well because I'm telling its story. But I think we can have more tourism coming here and enjoy. And what
Oh,
I'm
it's
trying to do, I'm
beautiful.
trying to get people to actually buy here because
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
property is terribly overpriced, but it's a good deal if you think of the lifestyle. I'm trying to get
That is,
people to buy.
no, that is true. That is true. Amazing scenery.
I become really one with the different. Uh, well, how shall I say? I wouldn't just call it tourism with this part of the
Yeah.
country. I know
Yeah.
every nook and cranny. I know it intimately. I know when certain plants come out. I've learned about the bird life. I've really immersed in the culture from that perspective.
Mm. Mm. Wow.
So So
Amazing.
I guess in that sense, you can really call me a new South African.
Yeah.
So, Sbonelo, are you ready for today's show?
Yeah, no, sure. Let's go for it. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, so we always on the move.
You're always on the move. You want to tell me where the picture was taken for your book because that's a very interesting picture.
Yeah, so we have a photographer that we use at Petrol Connect, a very, very creative guy and very artistic. And so he actually took me to, some of the rubble that was after the looting, and he took some photos there. And we also went to the studio because he also wanted a certain quality. So it was a bit of work. At first, I didn't think that it was necessary to do all these shots, but yeah, I think what ultimately came out of it was amazing. Hey.
It's stunning. I mean, it's really the kind of picture you should have exhibited because the story and just well it's a very compelling picture. I will tell you that it's not just a photograph, you know, it's a kind of
Mm.
photograph that speaks your journey. Haven't read your book yet. I'm about to get into it, but this the introduction, your foreword also spoke to me. The Petrol Attendant, Stumbling into Destiny. It's more than just the exhilarating and inspirational journey of a man from the rural heartlands. It's the entrepreneurial genius fueled by a treasury of insightful lessons that can empower anyone to achieve unimaginable success. By Sbonelo Mbatha. Sbonelo, you want to take it from there?
So
What
I'm
inspired?
I'm born in a rural heartland called Ngabeni Kwashali. This is in the border of Eastern Cape and KwaZulu Natal. Growing up as a young boy, all I knew was herding cattle and sheep, and I was a typical rural boy who had who honestly, you know, if people ask me, and I write about this in the book as well. So if people ask, you know, whether was I poor growing up or not, and I often say, no, I actually wasn't until I left the rural heartlands and I started to look back. And then I realized that actually I was living in poverty. But at the time when I grew up, in Ngabeni. I knew poor people, but not us. But only when I left and I looked back and I was like, damn, actually, we were poor.
Wow, what a rich life you have lived if you had that experience. Because you know,
Absolutely.
poverty and wealth, they are relative. You
Yeah,
would
they're
know.
all relative. They're all
Yeah.
relative. I mean, I honestly speaking, I was content. I didn't feel like I lacked anything. At home, we had horses. So,
You rode.
and there was transport for us. So, you know,
Wow.
even to this day, so when my kids, when we go on like vacation and my kids want to go and pay for horse rides, I'm like, I don't think it's
I
fun.
owned one. I owned one. Wow,
Yeah,
Sponello,
yeah.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. That's wonderful. What a beautiful life. What
Oh,
an
yes. We had rich life.
mm,
I mean, we were sharing everything. I mean, even at school, you didn't have your own food, so whatever you bought, you shared with others. You
wow.
would never just have your own food and your own guinya. We call it maguinya, that's fat cooks.
Yes, yes.
And so we really lived a very rich lifestyle. We even shared clothes, you know, shoes
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
everything. You know, you didn't really have your own stuff.
Yes.
Anything you owned, you shared with others.
What a wonderful way to grow up. And so, how did you pursue and achieve your purpose and destiny from a petrol attendant to becoming the owner of numerous petrol stations, an author, and one of South Africa's leading entrepreneurs?
Please allow me to take you through a journey, right?
Please
So
do.
here's a young boy in rural heartlands, tending after cattle, and at about when I was doing standard 5, there's a new school being built close to our primary school. And this particular school, they called it a commercial school. Now, where I come from, we did not understand a word in English. Even the little English that we were taught, you were taught English in Zulu. And I know it doesn't probably wouldn't make sense to someone,
Mhm.
but even the people that taught us English, they spoke English as their third or fourth language themselves. And so English was really not a language that was spoken. So here is a school being built, and it's called commercial school. Just the word commerce. really just lit up everything in my mind. And I was like, I didn't understand what it meant, but yes, it sounded nice, just the sound of it. And I became intrigued in knowing what is this commerce thing. And eventually I go and I register in this school because I wanted to study commerce. Now I'm doing accounting, business economics, and economics in the heart of rural, and we're starting to do these balance sheets and income statement. You know what I'm saying? And like, okay. But then, as kids, we always had these uncles that came visit homes once a year, like during Christmas, that you never knew them, but they would come once a year to visit. And every time they would ask you that question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And of course, we always gave those stock standard answers, I want to be a police, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a teacher, because that's all we knew. But now that I was studying commerce, I think for me, it was, it's something I took pride in. Like, I'm now going to have something different to say. So when the Mkulus and the Gogos are now asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wanted to come up with something different to what everybody else was saying. So standard 8, I still remember vividly, like asking my teacher, hey, now that I'm studying these subjects, what can I become? And my teacher said, you can become an accountant.
Wow.
Now, Michelle, it was the first time I heard of accountant. I didn't understood what they did. I'd never met one. But again, I fell in love with a new profession. Now I'm going to become an accountant. So I looked forward to the Mkulus and Gogos asking me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be an accountant, Mkulu, And so I then pursued this idea of wanting to become an accountant. Standard 8, I leave Ngabeni to KwaMashu here in Durban. And purely the reason for leaving was because KwaMashu, there was running water. And we didn't have running water that side. And then, I had to go, if I wanted to finish my standard 9 and matric that side, I had to go and rent somewhere where I needed to wake up very early in the morning to fetch water and all that. And I didn't want to do that. And then I came to live with my dad. So my dad worked at Spornet. My grandfather had bought a 2-roomed house in KwaMashu.
Wow.
We didn't have electricity, but we had water. That was good enough for me to leave Ngabeni to KwaMashu. So I come and I finish my standard 9 and matric in KwaMashu in a high school called Inhlakanipho High School. And of course, I want to become an accountant. Now, very unfortunately, I don't have money to study, but I have such strong resilience and faith that I am going to study. And through God's miraculous ways,
Wow.
I managed to enroll at Mangosuthu Technikon. It was a miracle on its own. And I tell you, we don't have all day to tell you how that eventually happens. But hey, then I find myself registering cost and management accounting at Mangosuthu Technikon. Now, I didn't pay because I didn't have money. It was really God's miracle that I managed to register there. Year 1, year 2, year 3, and I complete my diploma in accounting. Now, finally, as I bow before, what do you call it during the graduation?
Oh,
and,
yes.
Yes. And they do the thing, and I'm like, wow, finally, I'm a graduate. Now, back then, unemployment was high, but not as high as it is now. Now, Michelle, in my community, there were not so many graduates. And whenever there was one graduate, the entire community would know. And so when I graduated, the whole community knew that Mbatha's son is now a graduate. It was a big celebration, and
Mm.
everybody knew, and you referred to as the learned one, the
The
educated
learned one.
one, and
Wow.
it came with those accolades. And
Mm, mm, mm,
what came along with that was a lot of societal pressure,
mm,
because you cannot be a graduate and be seen at home during the day. Now that you're a graduate, you gotta have something to show for it. And it was that pressure. And remember, it's not like it's pressure that people were saying. It was really me not wanting to be seen at home during the day because
mhm,
I'm now a graduate. That actually propelled me not to want to be seen at home.
mm,
And it was that, really, that was the motivation for me to wake up in the morning and go, and eventually I go to work at a petrol station.
Wow.
Now, I
Wow.
didn't tell everybody that I was working at a petrol station. I
Wow.
simply woke up in the morning because I didn't wear my full uniform when I was going to work. I had my uniform in a little plastic bag. And when I get there, then I would change, put my uniform on, and I go to work. Now, I do that and I work at a petrol station. Nobody knows that I work there except my family, because it was not meant to be a destination. It was meant to be while I'm applying for jobs. I was applying for jobs like you would never believe.
Mm,
Anytime I see a newspaper, I never read news. I just went to the vacancy section and I looked for jobs. I would apply even for jobs that wanted 10 years experience. I would put my
mm,
CV anyway.
mm, mm,
And I had the privilege of being called to 2 interviews. And I got employed both 2 companies, but I never started to work.
mm,
The first one, I got employed. I mean, they interviewed me, they liked me, they employed me. But before I even started to work, I was told that someone internally who was acting, challenged why they were not employed and they were considering
mm.
somebody from outside. I was crushed because I was
Oh,
desperate for a job.
yes, yes,
I was
yes.
desperate.
Oh
The
my.
second time, it was an accounting firm.
Mm.
Somewhere, it's just that I was younger at the time and I didn't understand Devon very well, but I know it was around your Florida Overport areas, somewhere there.
Oh, I know that area well. Yes, yes.
Yeah, and so I was called for an interview there. It was an accounting firm.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 4 white gentlemen that interviewed me. I was a young boy. I was timid. I didn't even understand how to construct a word in English. I don't know. I still wish I could go back now and just listen to myself back then, because I don't know what I was saying. But for
Mm.
whatever reason, they still liked me, because they then decided that they offering me a job. And they had forgotten to ask me if I had a driver's license. Unfortunately, I
Mm.
didn't. And they said, "Oh, geez, we thought you've got a license." And I said, "Sir, I like next week I'm going for my."
Mm.
And they said, "Oh, you know what? Don't worry, we're going to call you." It's been over 20 years and I'm still
I
waiting.
haven't called you. Well, I hope they watch the show. People catch on to the show, so they Sbonelo,
Anyway,
my heart, you know what? You took me back. You said you take me back, right?
yeah.
My heart is really sore for you, and I felt this is that kind of empathy I have. I felt those moments for you.
Mm,
I mean, like really did.
mm.
And I I have no words. I mean, for me to be without words, it's unheard of. I really have no words right now. I'm just feeling. These are deep feelings. And all I can say to you is, well done, brother. Well done for who you are today and how far you've come, because rejection is not a good call in life.
Oh no, I mean, I still remember going to Jacobs, in those factories there, trying door to
Mm.
door and coming with a CV. and being stopped by security at the gate and say, no, no jobs, I was
Mm.
desperate. I was desperate for anything and
Mm.
anyone who could employ me. It was really during that desperation that I went to work at a petrol station. And
Okay.
when I was a petrol attendant, and as I really enjoyed my job. I enjoyed my job. I didn't tell people that I was a graduate. It
Mhm.
was not in my head. I just
Yes,
wanted to work.
you wanted to work.
And the boss took me inside, and I worked now inside the shop as a merchandiser
Uh-huh.
and ultimately in the office. I remember I'm trained in numbers. And so
Yes,
now
yes,
I'm in the office and I'm busy reconciling cashiers, the money coming in and so
yes,
forth.
yes.
And then we connect very well with the boss. And he was kind enough to teach me Excel spreadsheets. And I
Mm.
started understanding. And then now all the information from school, putting together income statements and balance sheet, it's
Yes.
all now coming to make sense. Only
Mhm.
now this whole thing is coming to make sense. And I start to see, hey, this business is not bad after all. And then that is when this passion started to build up as I
Mhm.
work in that office. Of course, at the time, I'm seeing this business, but it is way too far-fetched for me. I mean,
Mhm.
this business
Mhm.
costs millions. And
Mhm.
who am I to even consider buying business that costs multi-millions when I'm
Yes.
only earning 800 Rand a month, you know? And of course, but you know what? The passion within
Yeah.
could not be quenched. And I then started to move from one petrol station to another. I'm now a manager. I now understand this business in and out. I understand it from being a petrol attendant to a cashier to a merchandiser to administrator. Now I'm a manager. So I've gone full circle in understanding how this business actually works.
Mhm.
It was really during that time when I was no longer looking for a job now. I often say, once you smell, a drop of fuel, you will never get out of it. It's like a drug.
Wow. Wow.
You get hooked for life.
It's a very unique industry, I have to say. It's different from other industries. But, just based, let's focus on what you've, oh, this is like just, it's a mind blowing journey, what you just described, your life story, your life beginning in the heartlands and then coming down to Kwamashu and then going into the city. I mean, this is a movie. You're practically taking me right into a movie. And the thing is, how can this encourage broken-hearted youngsters in our country right now? Somebody watching this talk show,
I
how
think the
can
reality, the reality is that my story is not unique to many, many millions of young South Africans.
mm, mm,
We're sitting with a number of young South Africans at home that are graduates, but they can't
mm,
find employment. I think for me, the one key thing that I found out of this is that often we want to do jobs that we like, but
mhm,
life does not always offer you what you like.
mhm,
So it is very important to do what you are presented at that stage and not wait for what you like. I don't know if that
yes.
makes sense, right? I did tell you
It
English is
does.
my
It
language.
totally makes sense because, to be honest with you, my own journey was similar because I matriculated, finished high school with the university entrance, and um, and I was ready to go to university. And my father said to me, "Oh, you're joining the family business," and that was it for me. It was like, "This is it. My life is over," you know. And I had to learn the kind of work that brings me to the journey that I am in now, which
Mm.
I was a young person, so you know how flighty you are when you're young, you think
Yeah,
differently.
yeah,
And I thought, but this kind of work is not what I want to do. But then as I started to get into it, I started to love it like you started to love your job.
exactly.
I think
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
key to purpose and destiny. Because I went into it very broke. I'll be very honest with you. I was brokenhearted. I wanted to become a lawyer or a teacher.
yeah,
Those were my career paths.
yeah, yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like, this is it. I'm so sad. So I totally understand what you're saying, and it resonates with me
yeah.
because I think the sadness of most of our young people, they end up with a degree or a career pathway that has started in a specific direction. But to reimagine your life, even with what you've learned, like your skill, you transpose it. It's like music, you can
Yeah,
transpose
yeah,
it higher
yeah,
and lower. You can
yeah.
play with it. So that's what you do with your career as well. I love what you're saying. Please go on.
So I mean, I think, if there's one thing about that young people must learn is that you can't always wait to do what you love. You must love what you do.
Yes.
So in other words, whatever opportunity that you're presented with at that current moment, do it
Mm,
as if it's the last job you'll ever do on earth. And
mm,
who knows, that could actually take you to your desired destiny. We
yes.
all strive to be successful in life.
Yes.
But what I've found is that the journey to success has a lot of detours. And sometimes
Many.
you may think that the journey you're taking is not taking you to where you are actually wanting to go. But as you keep one step after the other, and as you continue to progress, the road and the path becomes clearer and clearer. And before you know it, you are back to your desired destiny.
You're
You
back.
may not go the way that you think
Yes.
you should
Yes.
have gone. I'm Christian, and often I would be,
Oh, me
quote
too. Yes.
Bible, and if you look at the life of Joseph,
Yes.
if you told Joseph and said you are going to be a prime minister, and Joseph said, no, but how does this work? I'm now being sold to some
Yeah.
strangers, and my brothers have deserted. They
Mm,
wanted to kill me,
mm,
but you telling me that I'm gonna be great? Aren't you lying? The
mm.
reality, though, is that all those detours that you could be taking are ultimately leading to your desired destiny.
Mm.
It's just that sometimes the road is not as straight as you would love. But hey,
Yes.
the Bible says the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh, wonderful. I love this. I love this. I absolutely love this. I wasn't expecting this part of it, but there's a ministry to this. There is
Yeah.
ministry to this. Is beautiful. Sbonelo, this is wonderful. And you have all of this to give to the world. What a gift you are. You are really a gift to this
Thank
world.
you. Thank
Wow.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was absolutely beautiful. So, PetroConnect Holdings is your very successful company. What exactly is it, and how is it empowering South African entrepreneurs entering and pursuing the fuel industry?
Yeah. So, once I eventually started owning my own petrol station, and I started growing in the fuel retail industry. I remember at the time I owned, at some point, I think at the time I was owning about 10 petrol stations or so. And then I got selected to be a regional chairperson for the dealer council. And later on, I was a national chairperson for the dealer council. Now, where that put me was that I was now serving in certain strategic boards for the industry. It was at the time when I started, to learn more about where the industry was going in as far as transformation is concerned. And I started, seeing a lot of like statistics about the industry, how much of this is actually owned by Black people. And I
Mhm,
realized that, yes, the numbers were really not great. There
mm,
were very, very few Black people
mm.
that actually, played active role in the ownership of petrol stations. And I felt a deep, deep, what do you call it? Yeah, when you just can't have that rest, And I
Mhm.
felt that I needed to do something about this industry. It was really, in the backdrop of that we formed Petrol Connect. Because at the time, I realized that, hey, when you want to buy a house, you would literally go to George and drive around and see
Yeah.
houses for sale, and you see
Yeah.
the house you like, and you call the number, the agent would then help you. But when you want to buy a petrol station, you can't just drive around and look for a petrol station written for sale sign. And I started by, but why is this? Why? How do you buy a petrol station? Well, how does a normal person who wants to buy a petrol station go about doing this?
Mhm.
And then I realized that there's a lot of red tape in the industry. Unless you understand how this works, you will never ever buy a petrol station. Then we started by, having workshops nationally, just
Wow.
inviting people that wanted to know how to buy petrol station, because we just wanted to open the industry up. And my business partner, Mark Harper, and myself, we
Mhm.
taught the country and just sharing knowledge and information. And at that point, then then we realized a lot of people were very keen. And then we started a training academy, which is
Mhm.
where we then started to train people that wanted to buy petrol stations and that wanted to know more about petrol stations.
Mm. Mm.
But then we realized that, hey, it's not enough to just train people. We need to
Mhm.
help them, because this business costs a lot of money. It costs
Mhm.
like 6, 7, 10, 15 million rand. How
Mhm.
do we assist those people to raise funding for this? Then we started to go to banks, and we then formed strategic partnerships with certain financial institutions so they could fund these people. But then we realized, hey, you can't just train, fund, and leave people like that. We've got to mentor them. And then we started, offering that after, sale mentorship to
Mm.
ensure their
Mm.
sustainability. And so this is really how then PetroConnect started growing and growing. And then we started like having a labor support. That is where like a few
Mm.
retailers,
Mm.
you need staff who would train your staff, who would, help with that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot that we now do in as far as fuel retail sector is concerned.
Wow, Sbonelo, your story just warms my heart. And now that I know that you have such a deep and beautiful walk with God, I want to ask you a question which was not meant for today, but I feel led to ask this. Do you think when you were that young boy, perhaps riding a horse or tending the cattle or the sheep in the heartlands, you think God looked down at you and said, "My boy, I have a plan for your life"?
I believe so. Hey, I believe so. I really, really believe that
Wow.
God always had a great plan for my
I-
life. When He says that I've got great plans for you,
Mm,
plans to
mm,
prosper you and not to harm you, plans to
mm.
give you hope and future.
Jeremiah 29:11. Wow.
Absolutely. And
Wow.
and I, and I believe that. And I believe that.
Wow.
And really one of my favorite scriptures in the book of Psalms, the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord. And
Yes.
and I and I, even in the book, there's a line that I put there and I say, you may not really understand where you're going, but
Mhm.
one thing that you must keep doing is keep walking. Just keep
Mm,
walking. Never, ever stop walking. And at times, it may not be clear where you are heading to. And I
mhm,
think, growing up in the rurals, we didn't have electricity. And it was like very dark at night.
mm,
There were times when you could hardly see your hand in front of you because it was dark. But when you walk, you imagined the route. And funny enough, you never got lost going home. But
mm,
the one thing you never stop doing is to keep walking.
mm,
And as you take one step in front of the other, you realize that the road and the path becomes clearer and clearer. But
mm,
when you stop,
mm.
it becomes dark.
Dark
But when you
again.
start to move, it does
Wow.
get clearer and clearer. And I say to people, whatever you do,
Of how you
just
are
never stop
opening
walking.
doors. So you are passionate about empowerment and you're also a virtual mentor. How did this part of your life begin and what outcomes are you achieving in this role as you mentor others?
Yeah, I mean, I think, for me, just the whole mentorship thing is, I think it's underrated in many aspects. And it is such a vital, vital role that each of us can play. And often I think many people undermine their own potential and impact that they can make, especially in young people's lives. I mean, if I just read your story, Michelle, you have an amazing journey. And I think each of us, you can't change the world, but you can change a person.
Yes.
There can be somebody, just one person. I believe that we all called, and there are certain people that they can only hear your voice and no one else's.
Mm,
And
mm,
only your life can impact somebody else and not someone else's. And I think it's important that wherever we are in our own little corners,
mhm.
we need to reach out to somebody. Maybe
Yes.
one person, it may be two people,
Mhm,
however and whatever it is, but let's reach out to somebody. I often say everyone has a story to tell,
mhm,
and
mhm.
there is not one story that is insignificant. And
Yes.
therefore, it is important that you do not tell your story, because
Yes.
your story will impact somebody else. And so I think for me, the whole mentorship drive is in ensuring that, number one, I don't want other people to fall in the same trap that I fell into. And
Mhm,
so whenever I live my life, and whenever I have an opportunity to warn you that, hey, there's a pothole, uh,
mhm,
yeah, slow down or
mhm,
avoid it, because
mhm.
it's already hit me. So I'm not one of those people that would say, because I've hit the pothole, let others behind me hit it too.
Okay.
You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? So I want to
Mhm,
just make sure that I can share my life lessons with others such that they're able to avoid some of the potholes that I've fallen victim of.
mhm,
And I think, the role of mentorship is so critical. And you don't have to have one mentor. I
mhm,
personally have. I've got a business mentor. I've got a family mentor. So your life has different pockets of it.
mhm,
And often you don't find somebody that fits in all your aspects.
mhm,
Uh, if it's got to do with um, you know authoring a book or whatever, I may just have a mentor for that. If it's
mhm,
got to do with running a successful business, I may have a different mentor for that,
mhm,
so forth and so on. And so I'm saying I really, really love to mentor. And sometimes, one of the reasons why I wrote a book, and you know, uh, often that question would come: why did you write a book? And part of the reasons is exactly that: mentoring. I'm
mhm,
limited to how I can share my knowledge if we talking like that,
mhm.
but a book has no limits.
No
I can
limit.
reach people overseas, I can reach people
Yes.
electronically, I can reach people, even people I don't know.
Yes.
Some of my mentors don't even know that they're my mentors because they mentored me through their books.
Hmm.
I immersed myself in books, in Miles Monroe's books,
Oh, wow. Dr. Miles is,
Dr. Miles.
I tell you what, I tell people he's still leading me from the grave.
I
He's one of
promise you,
those teachers. He may be gone, but he's still present. He's
amazing. You know what I'm saying?
oh, I
And
actually, I have to show you this. I just have
yeah.
to. Look what's on my desk.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
There you go. So, there, oh, Dr. Miles. Oh, Sbonelo, we have so much in common. Dr. Miles,
So
he
much.
was a teacher. He was a teacher.
Oh,
So when did you discover Dr. Miles's teaching?
I was young. So, I mean, I mean, as you know, my background now, so I didn't grow up reading books. But when I was doing Standard 9, I stumbled upon his book. It
Wow.
was, the title was Realizing Your Potential.
Yes.
There was, I think, maybe one of his first books.
Yes.
Um, very, very
Maximizing. Was it not maximizing?
maximizing.
Maximizing your potential.
You
Yes.
are
Yes.
right, actually. Yes.
It's also the first book I read. I was
Yeah.
19 when I first read it.
Yes. Yeah,
I was
me too. So
19.
I might have been like, I can't remember the age, but somewhere 17, 18, somewhere there when I
Wow.
read that book, and it changed my life.
Wow. His teaching has really impacted my life.
Amazing.
Do
Amazing.
you know, people mourn his death and they say, oh, it's so tragic. But I actually think he emptied out because he constantly said, once your purpose is done, be ready to go. He said that.
Exactly what he said. And
He
and I
said
think
that.
it's, he emptied himself. He
He
said,
emptied himself.
the richest place in the world is cemeteries, because there lies books that have never been written, songs that have never been sung.
Yes. Yes.
And he made sure that when he goes to the grave, he goes to grave empty.
Empty. That's
Yeah,
it. And he did because we still listening. I mean, I cannot go my week without at least listening to one sermon. And I probably have heard whatever's left now, but his kids have done a great job
absolutely.
continuing his ministry.
Just to
He's on
continue his
iTunes,
ministry. Yeah.
he's on YouTube, he's practically everywhere. He hasn't left the earth.
No,
He's
he hasn't.
his body's
He
left, but
hasn't.
he's still
Yeah,
teaching us.
he's
So I
still here.
love that. I totally love that. And so, as a highly respected and recognized thought leader and expert in entrepreneurship and the fuel retail industry, how are you impacting and changing your world?
Well, I think for me, as I said earlier, I think mentorship is one way, coaching is one way, but also just opening opportunities for people that wouldn't have had those opportunities for
Mhm,
me, just
mhm,
another way. I think um, I've had now about 7 people that worked for me who were my managers at different service stations. They now own their own petrol stations. Why?
wow.
Because I want to make sure that I duplicate myself through them. I want to make
Yes,
sure if I can open a door for somebody else, I,
yes.
I would have touched so many lives, and
Mm.
I'm trying to empty myself as well before
Yes,
I
yes, yes, that's a good way to live. Actually, it's a good way. I frighten my husband when I speak like that, but look, it's Auntie. Look, see, I don't know, when the father sent us here, he just put something else into us because
Yeah,
we have, the time is running out and you have that sense of, I've got to finish this. I've got to finish this,
absolutely,
you know.
absolutely.
And Sbonelo, I'm so impressed. I'm actually touched and I'm thanking God while I speak to you that I met you. So, Sbonelo, what does 30 years of democracy in our beloved South Africa mean to you? And what positive changes are you hoping to see in the fuel and retail sector in the next 30 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, 30 years of democracy symbolizes progress. It symbolizes relentless pursuit of quality, justice, of opportunity for all South Africans. I think it signifies I'd say, the triumph of democracy over oppression, the unity over division,
Mm,
hope over despair.
mhm,
It's I think it's a testament for the strength and resilience of our people.
mm,
We've overcome immense challenges and obstacles to build a more inclusive and a very prosperous society. And, I- and, and I think I'm so proud to be South African.
yes,
If we
yes,
just
me
look
too.
back at the
Yes,
road we've traveled
yes,
and where we are today, chances are you are now connecting with me. You have an address that you wouldn't have proudly owned 30 years ago or before then. I live in an address where I would never have dreamt that a Black
Yes,
man would leave in this address
of
before.
course, yes.
And I think these are these are small little things that we've taken for granted now.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but yes, I think 30 years symbolizes a lot of progress that
yeah,
South Africa has made. Look,
yeah,
we've got our own challenges. We can't shy away from that, but we also cannot forget where we come from. And I
mm,
think we need to look back and
mm,
celebrate every success
mm,
that we made. The reality is that, you know, there are certain privileges, and maybe not privilege is not the right word, but we've been able to own our lives and to own our space
mm,
that God
mm,
had created us to own.
mm,
And I think 30 years has marked a significant
mm,
milestone for us.
mm,
I'm very optimistic of the future. I know we've got a lot of challenges, as I said, as a country, but I'm very, very hopeful and optimistic about the positive changes that lie ahead. Um,
mm.
even economically, we're going through a very difficult phase
Yes.
right now politically
Mm,
as a country, and I think we are starting to see the reemergence of the new democratic society in the next coming years, and how that is going to look like only time will tell. But I'm very proud of where we've come from and how
yes.
far.
And for the fuel retail, the fuel and the energy sector, what are you dreaming for that? Yeah.
I think the future has a lot of innovation, and then I envision, it's obviously not going to be fossil fuels as we know it today. Uh, it's an industry, it's still going to be an energy industry, but you're going to see more of your electric vehicles coming through.
Yes.
Although in South Africa in particular, we are still very far from seeing significant impact of
Mm,
EVs.
yes.
I still give another 15 years at the very least, where you're
Mm,
going to start to see a meaningful shift from your fossil fuels, to your more greener fuels and source of energy. But it's going to be a very sustainable industry. It's going to be an industry where maybe the future, and I know that South Africans will probably do not foresee a petrol, let me say, a service station without a petrol attendant. But I think the future of this industry is that is, you're going to be filling your own or charging your own vehicle. You're probably not going to be having petrol attendants as we have them today. They are such a luxury for us, and if you
very much
go
so.
where
Yes.
we've got.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Bless you, and may the rest of your week be just perfect.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Michelle. I
you
really
very much.
appreciate
God
you having
bless.
me. Thank
Good
you. Bless.
night.
Bye.
Bye. Bye bye.